So right now, I'm going to start with an example again. Examples make life easier. I'm going to go with, let's say, NASA. So NASA buys threat intelligence to secure its computers and systems. So they would have a bunch of TI providers or threat intelligence providers. These are actual vendors who specialize in sharing threat intelligence. So they would collect their threat intelligence using any of the kind of like ways they can they can find threat intelligence. Most commonly, they would, for example, give you free antivirus, and you're going to share every threat indicator or kind of like indicators of attack with them in return for having a free antivirus. So when you get hacked, you're more of like their you're kind of like putting your computer as kind of like their experiment lab. When you get hacked, they try to collect more information about the hack that you like the attack that you got exposed to, and they actually try to learn how this attack was done, and they generate the threat intelligence to sell it later on for NASA or whoever buys their threat intelligence. So this is one of the way, but for example, in this example, TI providers are getting their TI in various ways. This, of course, can happen through, as I said, their own kind of like their own ways, their own products. So products, big data trading, you'd have like data trading and all that kind of stuff. So they would be also buying stuff from researchers, the real researchers, kind of like cybersecurity researchers, who would be selling their stuff to TI providers. They're getting a lot of information, of course, from the community. So like from us, pretty much, we are the community. They are getting a lot of threat intelligence from the community, and from open source actually. So they would collect a lot of information from open source. They would pay $0 for it and then sell it to NASA for $1 billion. Researchers get a single dollar, and again they sell it for 3-4 times like the actual amount that they pay the researchers for. And this keeps on happening because you find this kind of like man in the middle. It's more of like an Uber model where you're just taking out the people in the middle of the peer-to-peer kind of like environment. So peer-to-peer obviously would here be a way better model, since the incentive is going to be shared equally to researchers and people who actually do the work for it. So community would actually also get money for it. But in the current model, this is not the case. Again, this is an example where I'm taking a government kind of like agency sector. Again, we're in the U.S. and the time frame is, let's say, whatever, like February 2020. Essentially, this model is really bad, as you can see, because NASA would have to kind of like register with a bunch of TI providers, and this gets really hectic. I mean, at the end, you're having a lot of kind of like TI providers sending you their data. You have to sign up with all of them, and you may end up with duplicate data. And this actually happened. It's a really well-known problem with the current model. What I also want to cover is that these may actually get DDoSed. So TI providers actually get DDoSed almost all the time, and hackers try to hack them and try to kind of like change the data that they are sending. A bunch of other problems actually happen, but I first want to explain how the model works, and then I'm going to take on the problems with it. So as I said, NASA would kind of like register with a bunch of TI providers, and all of these TI providers are going to pump big data into NASA. Of course, they may be in different formats. You would have duplicate data, you would have bad data. TI providers, for example, would be, I mean, let's take an actual TI provider problem. So you would have like www.tiprovider.com, and right away when you see that happening, when you see that NASA is getting its stuff through an internet connection, you right away think of DDoS attacks. I mean, it's a single failure point, right? You think of DDoS, you think of whatever you can do to take the website down, or kind of like try to hack it. So you're looking at OWASP top 10, SANS top 25, and whatnot. I mean, you can do a lot of different stuff to the website, or the kind of like the TI provider website. You may try also kind of like hacking the actual website administrator, or kind of like redirecting the domain to a different server and whatnot, to kind of like try to inject bad data. So, for example, they would be reporting on a bunch of hackers. So they would be like reporting on hacker A, hacker B, and you know that you're hacker B, so you just go in and you take this out. So NASA would never know anything about you, and you can hack NASA successfully if you take the TI provider down, because this is the bottleneck in this model. So also one of the other things is that let's say your TI provider is in the U.S. or is in China or is in India, and your firm is in the U.S. You're looking at lag times as well, because at the end of the day, the internet is a bunch of wires, and you have to wait longer if you are in a different country or time zone. So in a nutshell, you're having many suppliers that you have to handle. Of course, different sign-up processes, and they tend to be very, very lengthy. They tend to be actually very time-consuming and resources-consuming, because you have to spend a lot of money just to get through this kind of deal. You usually give no feedback to the TI provider, and if you give feedback to the TI provider, you're not really giving feedback to other customers. So if NASA says this TI provider is the worst, they're not going to share this feedback, for example, with another government agency. So the other government agency would still be buying from this TI provider. Of course, you have bad data that can happen. Since it's a single failure point, everybody's hackable. So TI providers are also hackable. If they get hacked, the whole system breaks, and their customers get hacked. You have duplicate data, because the CI provider is going to also get some stuff from from open source, and they're going to send that to NASA as well, as if it's their work. Of course, you get data rebranding. You get a lot of other problems. I mean, the moment you look at this model, you right away identify it as one of the worst models to share threat intelligence, and I'm not sure how did we get there. But this is what we have right now. As you can see, the community gets no incentive to actually share anything. And if there's another government agency, for example, that let's say I'm actually not sure. I believe it's the ISR. IRS. Yeah, my bad. So you're looking at, for example, the IRS. If the IRS gets hacked, they don't really want to say that they got hacked, because again, they're risking bad PR. If they got hacked, everybody would never trust them again. So there is no incentive for IRS to actually say to any of the TI providers or NASA that they got hacked. Again, you can see data hijacking and rebranding. So they would hijack the researchers' work or hijack other TI providers' work, and would kind of like send it as if it was theirs. And there is no way to kind of like make sure who actually created the threat intelligence. Open source, again, they rebrand that as if it was theirs, and they sell it and whatnot. You get a lot of different problems with contributing at this point. And at the end of the day, like, TI providers are just a bunch of databases, right? So they have to build their own trust. Like, why would you trust a TI provider? Like, what if they, for example, have different agendas, and they kind of like wanna let certain state-sponsored hackers hack you, and they don't want to really submit any information about these hackers that are paying them, for example. Again, we said it's a single failure point, so this gets really bad the moment you kind of like totally depend on them. They're a huge target for attacks. I know everybody thinks hackers are busy trying to hack Google, but no, nobody's trying to hack Google. People are actually trying to hack TI providers, because the moment you hack a TI provider, you take those down, you're able to theoretically and in practice hack any other kind of like big company. because big companies depend on TI providers for this kind of intelligence. Um, this is pretty much everything I wanted to cover about the problems with what we have right now. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I'll make sure to respond to every single one of those. If you want me to explain any other idea that I did not fully explain, or you felt like you didn't really understand it, I'll be happy to shoot another video and I'd send you the link for it. And yeah, make sure you send any questions you have to our email, or pop them down in the comments. Stay tuned. The next video, I'm gonna present you with the solution we have for this problem.